Hi, everybody. This is Steve at Restoring Hope Counseling and Coaching. Thanks for taking the next few minutes to watch this second video in a series on anxiety. If you watched the last video, what we talked about is the difference between healthy anxiety and unhealthy anxiety. If you have not watched that video, I would suggest you go back to watch that. It's about 8 minutes or so it's very quick. And if you have not watched the last video, let me just quickly tell you that the intention for these videos is not to provide therapy for you. It's really just to provide some education materials to you regarding, in this case, anxiety. We'll be addressing other issues like depression and trauma and relationship issues and addictions ongoing. And so the purpose of these videos are to be short 5 to 7 minute videos in which we provide some education for you, and we'll teach you a skill in just about every video, so you can learn those skills, and then apply it to your own needs, and hopefully be helpful to you. In this video, in a continuing series on anxiety, what I want to talk to you briefly about is where anxiety comes from. So let's jump right into it. So really, anxiety can come from a couple different places. It can come from childhood experiences. It can come from some physical, medical issues that might be going on in your body, or it can come from the ways that we think about current or past situations, or really how we might be thinking about some of the physical or medical problems that we have, or we think that we have. Regardless of whether anxiety is generated from childhood experiences or medical reasons, the thing that really sustains and exacerbates anxiety is our thinking processes. In other words, how we think about these other issues really is the primary driver for anxiety. Now, we've known this in my field of counseling. We've known that for the last probably 40 to 50 years. Really, our cognitions, and cognitions is just a synonym for thinking. Our cognitions really is the primary driver and primary sustainer of anxiety. So that's good news and bad news. It's bad news because you and I, when we have anxiety, we are the ones that are generating that anxiety. Anxiety does not come from the outside in, meaning nobody can force us to be anxious. What happens sometimes is other people do things, and then how we think about how they're doing those things, or the meaning that we attribute to what they did, will generate anxiety. So all the anxiety is generated from something internal. So the bad news is we are creating our own anxiety. The good news is we are creating our own anxiety. It's not an outside cause, but it's primarily how we are thinking about anxiety. And the reason why that's good news is because if we are generating our own anxiety through our thinking patterns, then we can change our thinking patterns, which then will affect the intensity or level of anxiety that we are feeling. And so I've had clients who have had some medical conditions, maybe some digestive issues around, say, Crohn's disease or diverticulitis or ulcers. And the ulcers or the Crohn's disease, for example, in and of themselves, really do not create anxiety, but it's how my clients have thought about those medical illnesses. If, for example, I've had clients who thought that this was the end of the world, that they were going to die really soon, and they were thinking these thoughts and expressing them to me. And they were thinking catastrophic thoughts. They're going to die real soon. Their family will be without an income, and they're going to struggle ongoing. And all this based upon a very real illness of Crohn's disease. Well, when they think that way, their anxiety levels go way, way up. And as a result, for digestive issues like Crohn's disease, for example, the higher the anxiety, the worse the Crohn's disease becomes. So I've also had other people with other medical conditions, not necessarily with Crohn's disease, but with something like that, and they think about it differently. They think of it like, well, this really stinks that I had this physical issue, but I'll get through it. Let me just take a day at a time and I'll get through it. There's great medical treatments out there. There's great holistic or natural treatments out there for their particular illness, and we'll get through it every day. So you see the difference in the thinking patterns. One generally leads to higher anxiety. The other one generally leads to healthy levels of anxiety, which we spoke about in the last video. And so the origins of anxiety, as we understand it, is primarily in how we think. Now, some people that I've said that to in my office or just in the community have said, well, aren't there brain changes that happen with anxiety? Aren't there different levels of chemicals in our brain that have been shown to fluctuate with levels of anxiety? And the answer is yes. But there's no evidence that the cause of anxiety is increasing of the chemicals in our brains. It's probably more likely that the changes in the chemistry in our brains are a result of how we're thinking about anxiety or how we're thinking about situations. And so some medications can help, and that's why medications can help because there are changes in brain chemistry, and the medications go after that, address those issues. But primarily, what we have found, and studies have found as well, is that as we can help people change how they're thinking about things, then that brain chemistry changes along with it without medication. So there are times when a person maybe should be on some short-term low-dose anti-anxiety medication. I don't speak against that. Usually with my clients, what I try to do is help them with their own thinking to reduce anxiety before we would take the step into medications. So as a quick skill, as perhaps some homework I want to give you before I sign off for today, is it will be be a lot of help to you if you can pay attention to the things you're thinking about when your anxiety is kicking up. In our next video, I'll address more issues around like what are the particular general principles of our thinking that generally leads to higher anxiety. But it really starts with you in just paying attention to what you're thinking about when your anxiety levels go up. Because there will be a connection to those thinking patterns in your anxiety. So we will address that more in our next video. So do some of that, pay attention to your thinking patterns, and then in the next video we'll address how again how we might be able to address that, how I do that in my office with my clients. If I can be of any help to you with just a phone conversation, or perhaps if you think you need to come on in, just see myself or one of the other counselors who can help you with counseling here at Restoring Hope. Give me a call or a text at area code 513-258-1474. Look forward to talking with you. Hopefully this was helpful to you, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.